Hey guys, it's Adrian for Production Crate. In our new Facebook group, recently Chris posted a poll asking what types of things people would like us to add to the site, and this cool dude called Mike left a comment saying that he believes we should have more loopable stuff, in particular flames. And I was like, you know what, Mike? I think you're right. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how you can actually make things loopable on your own. We'll be using fire as our example. So this clip I have in here is Small Fire number 6 from the Production Crate website. First, I guess I'll go ahead and show you how to not do this. Okay, so this is a pre-keyed effect, and I'm just going to hit Control-Shift-D on my keyboard to split it right in the middle. And if we move these two clips apart so they meet more in the middle, a lot of people, the way they would do this is on this top clip, you just animate the opacity down to 0, and on the bottom clip, you would start it at 0 and animate it up. And then we'll trim our composition so we have our loop point, and that's how they do it. And I gotta say, I think that this is a very bad way of doing it. And to show you why, I'll just drop it onto this background real quick. Okay, so it's on the background. We'll probably set it to a add transfer mode or a screen transfer mode maybe. And if we just let that play through, you can see that the point where it loops, where we just did a fade, it's super obvious, right? See this? Where it just kind of turns into like a ghost fire for a minute, and in the middle here it loses intensity. It's nowhere near as bright as it was before, and we have the parts where the fire has blown out, where it's just white. During the fade, you can see through that and they kind of turn gray, and that's not what fire should look like, you know, that's ugly. So that's a bad way of doing it, and I'm just gonna go ahead and show you, in my opinion, a better way of doing it. Let's go back into that fire composition, and I'm just gonna start over. I'm just gonna bring in the clip again fresh. And the first thing I'm gonna do is add a solid composite effect to it. And we'll put that on a black background. And that way, when we start actually transitioning it, it's gonna block out the parts that we want it to block out. So I'm gonna Control-Shift-D on the keyboard again to split it, just like before. And we'll give it a fair bit of overlap here in the middle. Okay, and since this fire is moving up, our transition, instead of just fading uniformly like that, I think we should make a transition that moves up too. So you can do this either with a mask or you can do it with a linear wipe. I would say that a mask is easier, but a linear wipe might look better. So I'm gonna use the linear wipe. So I'm just gonna solo this top part so we can actually see what we're doing, and I'll add a linear wipe effect to this, and we'll set the transition to 50 right now so we can just see how things are going. And we probably want, we want it to be moving up, so I think that means we need our angle to be 0. So just at the beginning of where we want it to start transitioning, let's set the transition to 0, and then at the end we'll bring that up to 100. And now the reason I like using the linear wipe instead of the mask is because we can add this feather to it, and you can make it kind of a wide feather, but with a mask this might mess up your bottom and top of the image if you don't animate the feather, but with the linear wipe it won't. It'll still look good. So if we put that back over our fire, this is what we have now. That's what our transition looks like, which is still not very good, but it's a lot better than it was before. I'll just trim that up and we'll play it. Okay, so we have our wipe transition, and it's looking a lot better than our fading transition was, but we can still improve this. See how we're still having the problems with these white points turning gray, so we're going to end up recoloring this later. So right now, let's just not worry about these colors. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add an adjustment layer to it with a tint. Right now, color doesn't matter. We're just trying to get the transition down. The transition's already looking less noticeable, and at this point, if you have any problem areas, you can address them with a new adjustment layer. You could add a levels effect to it, and our transition is looking pretty good right now. Oh, here we go. Here's a good example. Okay, so this flame popping up here, maybe we don't want that there. It's just kind of disconnected from the rest of it. So that, I would say, is kind of a mistake. So we have this new adjustment layer with the levels effect, and we can actually move our handles here on the levels and just kind of choke that out to where it disappears, and just kind of draw a mask around it and feather that mask out. So this mask is not going to be affecting all of the fire. It's just going to be getting rid of that part that we don't want. And there's another one floating over here. This one's not as bad actually, but say I wanted to get rid of it, I could just duplicate that mask and move it over and just get rid of all the problem areas that way. And then if we want to, we can animate the opacity of this adjustment layer by hitting T on the keyboard. So this part where our transition hasn't happened yet, we shouldn't need that adjustment layer because this is just regular fire as it actually looks. So there's not going to be any mistakes there. So we can just turn our opacity down, and then in the middle of the transition, turn it up. And then towards the end of the transition, turn it back down. And of course I forgot to keyframe it. So I'll just go back and add in those keyframes real quick. And there we go. So now we have that adjustment layer that's going to be getting rid of those parts that we don't want. And in this example, there wasn't really any glaring mistakes, but depending on what kind of clip you're using, you might have some really ugly like transparent flames popping up, and that's just how to get rid of them. Okay, another optional step if we add a new adjustment layer, if you have Real Smart Motion Blur, you might want to use it in this case also. This is a third-party plugin, so if you haven't purchased it, then you're not going to have it. But we can, similar to the opacity of that levels, we can turn it up in the middle here, like set that to a 1, but keyframe it. And then at the beginning of the transition, turn it down to 0. And at the end of the transition, turn that down to 0 too, so that if we have any other mistakes that we weren't able to get rid of with the levels, this motion blur will help blend them together. But it's not totally necessary. And if you don't have it installed, it's not going to be a big deal. So I'm actually just going to get rid of it. I just thought I would mention it in case maybe you need it. But if you do use this Real Smart Motion Blur, I would also recommend taking a mask and masking off the bottom of it, because the only part that you're gonna have trouble blending is these top of the flames that are jumping up, but the bottom is probably gonna look fine and is not going to need extra motion blur applied to it to make it look okay. So I would just mask that off, because the motion blur will probably do more harm than good down at the bottom there. Okay, so that's the motion blur, but it's a third-party plugin and it's not required, so I'm gonna delete it and we'll probably be fine without it. Okay, so we do have a transition point, but it's way less noticeable than it was with the other method. And right now we want to correct the colors to make it look more like it's supposed to. So on top of everything, I'm going to bring in just another copy of the fire for color reference. And I'm just going to move that over to the side. And then under it, I'm going to add an adjustment layer, and I'll call this color, and where you can use it to recolor our flame. So the easy way to do it is to use another third-party plugin, but it's a free one. It's from Video Copilot. It's called Color Vibrance. And if you just drop that on, you can use the eyedropper to kind of steal a mid-tone color from the flame, from the original flame. And that does a pretty good job on its own of giving us some natural colors. They're not exactly the same as its flame, but you can get them there by just tweaking it a little bit. It looks like we kind of need more yellow. We're looking a little darker and red. So I'll just raise this color up. And I honestly can't really tell the difference between these two. Here's the original and here's the Color Vibrance. And that just looks great to me. And now if we look in the middle of the transition, instead of having our white points fade down into a gray, instead they've turned into an orange, like a darker orange, which is much less noticeable and more realistic. But let's say you want to get away with no third-party plugins at all. You don't want to use this Color Vibrance. That is fine. You can actually use a CC toner instead, and we'll set that to a pen tone, so we have 5 different colors to choose from. We want to leave our black at black and our white at white, but our mid-tone, we can sample one of these orange colors here. In our dark tone, we can sample one of these darker oranges where it's fading away, and then for our bright, we'll sample this yellow. And that could use some tweaking also. Maybe I need a brighter color for my dark tones. There we go. And as you can see, these colors are looking pretty much exactly the same also. And it was really easy to do. Just use the CC toner. We'll get rid of this reference fire, so we just have our loopable fire now. Our final step is to get rid of this black background that we had. So you can do that with just a shift channels, and you can tell to take the alpha from the lightness or the luminance, but that will darken your flames a little bit. So that might be less than ideal. Another way is to use the unmult effect, which is from Red Giant, and there's a couple of ways you can get it. If you have Red Giant Universe, unmult will come with that, and Red Giant Universe is a set of plugins that you pay a subscription for, but also you can get some of them for free, and I believe unmult is one of the free ones. And also if you have an older version of Knoll Light Factory, unmult will come with that too. We can just grab one of those and put it on, and that will work perfectly. Alternatively, if you're not using the CC toner and you're using the color vibrance effect instead, that has a transparency option built right in. So if you just click matte alpha and turn that to on, then that'll make it transparent for you. Now if we go back to our composited example and just play that through, and let's see what that looks like. Okay, so as you can see, our edit point is a lot more inconspicuous now, and I honestly can't see it. I think you'll be able to find it if you start going through frame by frame, but as it's just playing, like, that edit is invisible. I went ahead and put a couple of these on the website, so if you go over to footagecrate.com or productioncrate.com and open up the Fire and Spark section, you'll see them right here. This one's for free, and if you have a pro account, you can download 3 of these. And I made the edit points in those as inconspicuous as possible, but just in case you have a super duper eagle eye, I put the edit point at a different place in each one of these clips. So if you did download all of them and use them all together, then the edit points would be all scattered, so they would be even less noticeable. And also I made these all the same duration so that if you want to use them as particles in particular, it'll be a lot easier to do that. And with that, I'm going to bring the video to a close. So I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for having me. Thank you to Mike for your suggestion, and I'll see you guys in the future. Bye.